We're back and I would like to show you some takeoffs, short takeoffs, short takeoffs in confined areas, short takeoffs in confined areas with high density altitude, and short takeoffs from very short gravel bars. It will be the Cessna 182P, Cessna 185, Cessna 170B in the videos. Also Idaho, Costa Rica, and the Pacific Northwest, Seattle area. So I'm in the Cascade Mountains, and forgot to mention, we'll also see a Mooney M20 doing a very short takeoff. This one has no obstacles. It's a short gravel bar in the Takeoffs River, Washington State. I try to come to these places when there is no wind, also with the airplane not fully loaded, have enough fuel and no cargo. Same gravel bar. From this view you can see the size of it. When the conditions are cold, like on this day, the performance of the airplane is really amazing. It does make a difference. Here I add 10 more degrees of flaps, push the nose down, and then pull to get in the air. Now we go to the rainforest in Costa Rica. You can see the red and beige shed to our side, right side. That's where we stopped, and then I didn't like what I saw, so we ended up pushing the plane backwards and cutting some of the tall grass with our hands, and there were some branches and stuff, so I wanted to have more distance for the takeoff, because I was not too convinced with these conditions that we will be very safe on the takeoff with those trees at the end. Every bit of extra distance does help, so if you have it, take advantage. We are back in the Pacific Northwest. This is Takeoffs State Airport. We can compare the Cessna 182P with a P-Pong 280 horsepower versus a Cessna 170B with 180 horsepower. The 182 climbs with a lot of authority, lots of power. This airport is in the Cascade Mountains but has no high density altitude. Now let's see the 170B with 180 horsepower. You will see that it gets in the air a lot more quicker than the 182, and then stays in ground effect to gain more speed, and also climbs with lots of speed and authority. I think they were pretty even in this comparison. This is Takeoffs in Washington State. We can see a takeoff from a Cessna 185, plenty of power, and you can see just normal takeoff. It's not steep. I put this one here so we will compare with a Cessna 170 takeoff with plenty of wind. The Cessna 185 has 300 horsepower. This Cessna 170B has 135. My friend Jughead opts to do low ground effect to get plenty of authority climbing just before the trees. When it's windy here in Takeoffs, you get a lot of turbulence, and your head is doing this kind of takeoff to get plenty of speed and more energy and more authority once it's crossing the tree. See this Mooney taking off from a short field. with big trees at the end. He does a little bit of ground effect, then start to climb and then goes to the left where he has room to go. Great energy management. This is Camp Patriot in Montana, high density altitude. It's about 4,500 feet density altitude. Short street, big trees at the end. So also VX is the only option. Something very important for high density altitude operations is to lean the mixture accordingly before takeoff. Here we have the camera under the wing, and we're going to show you the same takeoff from a different angle. Taking off with 20 degrees of flaps, and as soon as I'm airborne, I use VX, best angle of climb, to clear the big trees at the end of the airstrip. This is Marble in Idaho. It is short, confined, obstacles, high density altitude, so it has all the ingredients to make it a challenging airstrip. I tried two different techniques, one between the hill and the trees, and the other one just go straight VX over the trees. I like better this one, going between the hill and the trees with more speed. Taking off from Marble, and you will see I go between the hill and the big tree. Here is another view of the same takeoff, and you can see more clearly. I did use some ground effect, and then I used VX after I went off ground effect to climb straight over the small hill. Compared to the other takeoff, I was a lot slower and more vulnerable to the winds when I was over the hill than when I was going a lot faster between the hill and the tall trees. This gravel bar is very narrow. The beginning is kind of rough, so I cannot start my roll there. This is in the Skagit River in Washington State. At the time of this video, it was winter time, so we had great performance with the cold air. We are back in Costa Rica. This is a Cessna 182 taking off from Moravia. It is a soft field, grass, wet and soft, so it grabs the tires and the rollout is very slow. At the beginning, the pilot turns to the right towards rising terrain, then he corrects. Density altitude is about 4,700 feet, and this airport is surrounded by mountains. So better to be lightweight and fly early in the morning when there's no wind and it's colder. I'm taking off from the same airfield with my 182. You can see the grass, the mark of the tires that have been going through the mud. So the rollout is pretty slow. I try to stay in ground effect for a bit to gain more speed to then start my climb. You can see around this is all mountains, high density altitude, so we need to be careful with the weight of the airplane and the time of the day because it can get very hot here. Then the density altitude will increase. We're back in Washington, this time back in Stehekin, taking off in the Cessna 182. Because I have the Sportsman's stall kit, I start with 30 degrees of flaps, then reduce to 20, stay in ground effect, and then do my climb. This day there is hardly any wind, so the takeoff is a lot less challenging than the one you saw with the Cessna 170B. Still climbing towards the mountains, you have to be aware you are going to make a 180 or continue climbing and gain altitude towards the mountain pass. The flight to Stehekin is beautiful. We are crossing the Cascade Mountains. We are flying over the lake, and it is very scenic. Lake Chalan is beautiful. This is a takeoff from a short gravel bar in Stilcomish.
Okay, say again. You got it.
Cold weather in a day like this helps a lot with performance. This is a Snohomish River. You can see the water is very calm, glassy. There is no wind. The gravel bar changes a lot. This time is kind of narrow, and to the right side you can see some bushes, so it becomes shorter. Arrowhead in Skycomish River. This one also changes a lot. It's on the short side, but of all the gravel bars, this one stays dry all year round. This one is also in Skycomish River. This one gets a little bit bumpy, so that makes for a challenge. Lately has not been usable, it's getting way too bumpy, and it makes it kind of risky. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to support Backcountry 182, please join me on Patreon. Thanks for watching. So Backcountry 182 at the top right, you can click on Patreon and it will take you to the Patreon page where you can select your membership level. It will show you the tiers and everything. By becoming a Patreon for Backcountry 182, you will not only be helping the YouTube channel, but you can also get direct advice or discount on some aviation products for your airplane, or advice or products for your airplane. We can chat and video call.